Greetings petrolheads, welcome back to Automation, the car company tycoon game. Today I'm going to show you guys the new generation of the AMW Tiger. It is a high performance, kind of luxury, saloon and estate, as you can see. A car that is aimed towards the BMW M6 Grand Coupe, towards the Mercedes CLS AMG and the Porsche Panamera Turbo and these kind of cars. So I have said that this is the new generation because I have also introduced the last generation Tiger on this channel, but it has been revised significantly, especially as far as looks go, as you can see. Chassis wise, it is still an aluminum monocoque. It is still rear wheel drive, double wishbone front, multi-link rear. Fixtures are very different from the last generation, as you can see, with some pretty, I admit, pretty BMW inspired taillights, quad exhausts, big diffuser, LED braking lights, some chrome on the side, some new inserted headlights here. These are actually the kind of 50s-esque taillight fixtures. Are actually, these ones are in the indicator category, which is why you can put them on the front. Usually these fixtures you cannot put on the front, but in the indicator section you can. And yeah, if you look at them from the side, they do pop out quite a bit, but that would obviously not be the case in a real world car. I just chose them because they're so bright and intense in their color. Like the white ones are really white. They're just slightly grayish, and the indicators are also very neat. And overall, I chose a little bit of a simpler design for the front bumper, and I think it's working out pretty well, especially with these vents here, kind of hidden behind the main grille down here. And yeah, I also think that this dark red color fits it really well. And let's go to the engine now. Have I shown off the AMW Capricorn, the SUV? I think I did. If not, then definitely Mouse Gunner has reviewed that car, and this engine is based off on that 6-liter twin turbo V8. It is retuned. We have 650 horsepower, 891 newton meters of torque. That is 657 pounds-feet of torque, in case anybody wanted to know these numbers. 9.6 compression ratio, relatively moderate cam profile. You can see that we have a very flat top range on the power curve. So once you get this thing up to, like, say 5.5, it really gets going. And I mean, it really gets going when you hit, like, say 3,000. That's where, you know, the power rapidly starts to climb. But what I mean is, from 5,500 onwards, you get this flat power curve, so that when you shift, you don't end up, you know, somewhere down here of power wise, where you have like half of its max power or something like that. You end up probably around here at 5,000 RPM, where it's already making almost 600 horsepower, and that is quite useful, I would say. Compressor, turbine, AR ratio, and max boost, that is basically all of these are kind of retuned from the Capricorn's engine, and mostly bigger and higher values. But the max boost is 0.8, which is to at least maintain some sort of fuel economy. Obviously this is not a car that's meant to be extremely economical, but 0.8 bars will do as well, and we're still making plenty of torque. Direct injection, as you would expect, premium fuel, a little bit richer on the fuel mixture. very high ignition timing for great throttle response, despite it being a turbo. And we also do not have throttle per cylinder configuration, which would buff this up some more. Nor do we have performance intakes, which don't actually help throttle response. But in any case, 45.2 throttle response for what this engine is actually quite good. 6900 RPM limit, and it'll sound like this. Right. So that was the engine. As far as the gearbox goes, we have an 8-speed double clutch with relatively short gearing, even though it's at 30 spacing, but just the nature of the 8-speed double clutch makes it so gears are closer together, because it's just how it works. We got an electric LSD. We got sports tires, because they're just stick here. 2 9.5s on the rear, 2 7.5s up front. We're still not making very much wheel spin. 18.2% is still very acceptable. And the brakes are carbon ceramic. 6 pistons front, 4 pistons rear. More tuned towards comfort, but still more than enough size to not cause any brake fade or anything like that. We have a fully clad under tray with relatively what's the opposite of aggressive? Comfortable wing setup. Is that even a thing, a comfortable wing setup? Well, what I'm saying is we're not making very much downforce. We're in fact making lift. A little bit at least. Cooling is enough. We have 5 seats. Well, at least what is classified as 5 seats in this car, because the idea is that on the rear you would have 2 individual seats, and then the sort of console between those 2 seats, where, given that this is a luxury car, the rear passengers would be able to control their windows, their heated or cooled seats, because it would have that in front and rear. It would also have like a seat massage function up front and rear, and that would also for the rear passengers also be controllable on that console. It's like, I'm sure cars that have like an armrest in the rear, and in place of that armrest you would have this sort of console, and also a small, I don't know what to call it, is that a shelf or a tray or something? I don't know, just a little place where you can put stuff, and that would be in the center of the rear. And that is what I mean with 5 seats, because that console obviously is also going to take up some space and use some weight. Therefore, for a more realistic approach, I went for 5 seats. Luxury interior and entertainment, all driver assists known to man, advanced safety, and then we went for an active sport spring with semi-active dampers and passive sway bars. But for a relatively comfortable suspension tuning, you can see here that only the front wheels are a little bit more on the bumpy side, but nowhere near low slung exotic with harsh ride or anything like that. It is still very well damped, and has a steering behavior that is more on the drivability side, and that is intended, because while the BMW M6 and also the Porsche Panamera are more tuned towards track performance, we at AMW think that most customers are probably not going to take these cars to a racetrack anyway. So therefore it is more of a GT car, but it can still do pretty well on performance. As you can see right there, 4.3 seconds is because in automation it is currently not that possible to put a lot of power down to the rear wheels when you're using a front engine design. For example, you know the Ferrari F12 Berlinetta, it does 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 3.1 seconds. That is currently not possible in automation, just because of how the game works. I would imagine that the 0 to 100 kilometers per hour time of this car would be more along the lines of 4.0, maybe 3.9. But where it really excels is like here, 326 kilometers per hour top speed. That is more than any of the cars that I've mentioned in this category. And once this car gets going, you can see that this just keeps accelerating. It just keeps pulling and pulling and pulling. That's already 270 kilometers per hour right there. 280. Yeah, right. Quarter mile. .8 seconds. That is definitely in line with its competitors that I've mentioned. Oh, and what about the effort track? I have no data on the effort track times of those cars though, of the MC Grand Coupe, the Panamera Turbo, or the CLS AMG. I don't know how they do on the effort track, so we'll just have to take this as it is. 123.8. That is actually quite fast for such a large car. You can see that this weighs almost 2.2 tons and is very, very comfortable. And I'm actually surprised that the sportiness is this high, despite the fact that I did not really tune it for sportiness. Drivability for such a powerful front-engine rear-wheel drive car is also really, really good. And in Prestige 53, because we got a V8, we got aluminium body panels and chassis, we got carbon ceramic brakes, and we got a high top speed, and all that combined makes for a high prestige stat. Safety is obviously going to be very high with such a high weight and also advanced safety. And then finally, the markets. Convertible Super and Hyper. I was more going for these kind of markets, but the very high top speed and the good prestige make it more eligible for these categories here. But it does well in luxury, 77.7 competitiveness and almost 90% affordability at $90,000 is what this would sell for, with a 20% markup. Yeah, that's definitely worth mentioning, I would say. It's also doing mildly okay in the Utility Sport Premium. The body is too old to be desirable, really? Really? I mean, if this is too old to be desirable, what we really need is a newer saloon body. I think I've mentioned this before though a couple of times. Oh, also, let us look at the estate version, which has exactly the same tuning in every single detail as the saloon version. But obviously, being a saloon, you have a lot more room in the back, practicality is up, weight is down, surprisingly, and it will do the effort track in 123.73. That is a little bit faster. Also, apparently it'll be faster over the quarter mile. I have no idea what's causing this, because in my mind, it being lighter means it should also have worse weight distribution, because the engine didn't change, so the weight that it would lose would probably be somewhere on the rear end, which is weird given the nature of the spotter with the huge rear hatch, the huge trunk. But in any case, this is the Tiger Estate. We kept the HP tag because that's just for identification purposes, that customers of the previous generation know that this is what used to be the top end model, and yeah, that is the Tiger from AMW, the new generation. Leave me some feedback. Hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like or a comment if you did. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time.